All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, call Laimla, Alahaina, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Harakak, Wadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Salaki and a hearty shalom to the elect. All right, it's your brother Karat Desai back again with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shim Yahushai. And I'm going to start off by reading 2nd Ezra 6 and 5. And ere the present years were sought out, and or ever the inventions of them that now sin were turned, before they were sealed that have gathered faith for a treasure, then did I consider these things, and they all were made through me alone, and through none other. By me also shall they be ended, and by none other. So this is the Lord talking about, if you read the first 4 verses, talking about the Lord in creation, right? How he created everything, okay? The 5th verse is the point I wanted to read, where it's talking about his elect, okay? The elect have gathered faith for a treasure, okay? Because the elect are going to be the ones that take heed and listen to this word, study it, understand the promises that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were given, and how those promises correlate to today. And also within those promises, they have hope in those promises. They believe in those promises, okay? All right. And those promises equate to building up their faith, and that faith that they have is a treasure, okay? All right. And I got the definition for treasure. All right. It says treasure, it refers to hoarded wealth, money, jewels, precious metals, or items of great value. Okay, and faith is an item of great value, because in the times that we're coming into, faith is going to be the things that get us through what it is, that the hard times, okay? What I mean by that, you got Jacob's trouble, you got the destruction of the nations, okay? You got wars, you got the destruction of America, okay? You got famine, you got pestilence, you got disease, you got people roaming the streets, killing and stealing, willing and dealing to get the things that they need to survive, okay? The brother did a video the other day. I was listening to it, where the woman was speaking on a man saying if they didn't have anything, they was going to be running up in people's houses. But we're going to need faith in that day for the Lord to protect you. You're going to have to think it to be true. And that faith is going to be a big value that you carry from now, from the time you heard the truth, all the way up until now, all the way up until you get into the kingdom, okay? All right, so again, treasure is something of great value, all right? It says cherish, item, a person. It says something or someone rare, precious, and highly esteemed. The verb, since it says here, to hold or keep as precious, to cherish or store up. All right, and faith is what the elect is going to be storing up. Faith is what the elect is going to keep, because that faith is going to keep us, all right, strong in the times to come, all right? Because the times to come are very horrible, all right? So what I looked up is, let me get this in, let me get this in Matthew. This is Matthew chapter 6 and verse 21. It says, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. All right, this faith is what our treasure is. Okay, all right, and I got that word for treasure. It goes into like I just mentioned, something that's of great value. All right, this knowledge that gives us faith. Okay, is great value. Okay. Verse 21, it says, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. All right. So if we storing up treasures in heaven, which coincides with us believing in His word and His knowledge and His truth, okay, and living in it, practicing it, doing what it says, okay, our minds would be on the promises that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob received and that we're going to receive, because that's where our hope is, okay? All right, that is exactly where our hope is, okay? So I had asked ChatGTP, what are the promises Yahweh or God, I put God, made to, what are the promises of Yahweh to the Israelites, all right? So it has here the Abrahamic covenant. It says here a land specific. Let me read this. It says Yahweh's initial promises were made to Abraham and passed down to Israel. Okay, so Abraham's promises didn't get passed down to the whole world. Didn't get passed down to Esau. Didn't get passed down to Elam. All right, didn't get passed down to no other individual but Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right, and these words that I'm about to read in regards to some of these promises, because it's 7 of them. All right. These is what we need to have our hope in, because this is what the Lord is showing us that He's going to do for us here in the times we're coming into. All right. So it says here, um, a land, core promises, land, a specific territory, the land of Canaan, Israel. All right. Nationhood, Abraham's descendants will become a great nation. All right. Blessings, Yahweh will bless them and make them a blessing to others. Global impact, all nations will be blessed through them. All right. So let's read a few of these scriptures that coincide with this promise that we need to be aware of, okay, so we can increase our faith in the Lord, because the things that the Lord said unto Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they're going to come to pass if they have not already, okay? This is Genesis chapter 12, and verse 1. It says here, now Yahweh has said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. The name of Abraham is great. Everybody knows who Abraham is, okay? And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. All right. Like I had mentioned, believe in the words of the Lord, all right? Especially in the sense where the Lord said He's going to make something great. The Lord made Abraham's name great. Everybody knows who Abraham is, all right? Everybody knows who Abraham is. They know who Abraham is to the point where they want to attach themselves to the covenant that Abraham was given, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they not even within that lineage. Okay, they may come from Abraham, they may come from Isaac, okay, but right there is when it stops. It doesn't go from Isaac to Esau and all the other nations. It goes from Isaac to Israel, okay? Let's see. Let's see what 15 says. All right, this is the portion of the land, okay, that the Israelites are going to get through the promises from Yahweh to Abraham. All right, it says, in the same day Yahweh made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river of unto the great river the Euphrates, the Canaanites, the Kenizzites, the Kedomites, the Kadomites, the Hittites, the Pezerites, the Perizzites, and the Raphaim, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. All right, this is the land that the Lord's going to give unto Abraham. All right, the land of Israel. All right, which we are promised. Okay, which we were promised, and that promise is going to come to pass. You got to believe that. Okay, the blessings that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob received, you have to believe that you're going to get them. All right. Um, let's see. They got the Moazic, Moazic covenant. Okay, which falls on the line of Moses. Okay, and here goes more about the land promises. I read Genesis 15 to 18. Let me read here. So it says Yahweh repeatedly promised Israel the land of Canaan. Okay. It says given as key elements, given as an everlasting inheritance. All right, which we're going to inherit. All right. It says includes future gathering after exile, future regathering after exile. All right, and we're gonna get that. All right, the Lord, you gotta promise, you gotta believe this because this is what the Lord said He's gonna give unto you. You, those that have gathered faith for a church that believe in His word. Okay. All right, this is Deuteronomy chapter 30. And verse 1, it says, and it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whether Yahweh thy power hath driven thee. And we are calling those promises, the blessings and the curses, to mind now that we have been woken up to who we are through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. The Lord has woken us up through the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, okay, and through the teachings that the Lord is allowed to be spread forth to from the men of the Lord to the elect, okay. And we remembering that we was fucked up. All right. We remember that we did fuck up. And we remember those curses and how they are reflected upon us today. It says here, verse 2, and shall return unto Yahweh thy power, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, and thou and thy children with all thy heart and with all thy soul. That then Yahweh thy power will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations, whether Yahweh thy power hath scattered thee. And this is happening, man. The Lord is in the gathering stage, man. All right, first is gathering through this word, which you need to have in order to establish your faith in Yahweh Shem Al Shai. You need to have this word because you can learn about Cesare Borgia and you can learn about the word God, which doesn't have any power behind it because Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, and that's where all the power, that name is a strong name, okay? It means He is. There's nothing else above Him, okay? All right, the highest height you could think of and you imagine, that's where the Lord sits, okay? All right, there's nothing higher than the Heavenly Father. Then the Son is under that, okay? Verse 4 says, if any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence Yahweh thy power will gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And Yahweh thy power will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. So this is something that we have to have hope in. This is something that we have to have faith in. This is something that we need to have an expectation of completing. All right. We can see it now. The word is being used to gather the Lord's men, okay, his people. All right. And sooner rather than later, the Lord's going to put us in our land. All right. We just read what Moses said to the children of Israel. Okay. Let's go to Ezekiel, the 36th chapter. We got to have faith in this. Okay. All right. This is back into the land again. This is from the prophet uh, Ezekiel. It says the future restoration of Israel. That's the title of it in my footnotes. All right. And my on the beginning of my chapter, Ezekiel 36. And I'm starting at 22. It says here, therefore say unto the house of Israel, thus saith Yahweh, I do this not for your sakes, O house of Israel, but for my holy name's sake. mine holy namesake, which ye have profaned among the heathen, whither ye went. And I will sanctify my great name, which ye have profaned among the heathen, which ye have profaned in the midst of them. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahweh, saith Yahweh power, when I shall be sanctified in you before their eyes. Verse 24 is the point. For I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of all countries and will bring you into your own land. You got to believe this. This is part of the promises that Abraham was given. This is part of the promises that Isaac and Jacob was given. This is the part of the promises that the Israelites, that you were given. Okay? You got to believe this, because this is going to happen. All right? Let me get this. I was looking this up. So this is Psalms 119. And I want to get that word hope there. This is Psalms 119 and 81. It says, my soul fainteth for thy salvation, but I hope in thy word. Okay. There was another one. It's 114, and I want to get that word hope. All right, this is Psalms 119 and 114. Thou art my hiding place and my shield. I hope in thy word. All right, so we have to hope in the words of Yahweh Shema Shai. And hope equates to faith. Okay, so the word for hope in the Hebrew is yakal. Okay, it says to wait, hope, expect. Okay, so I just looked up some of these words. To look up the word hope, it means aspiration, hopefulness, a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. And we expect these words of the Lord to happen. All right, we have an expectation for them to happen. All right, it says a feeling of trust. So when we read these words, us believing that these words will come to pass gives us a feeling of trust. And we can use these words to trust in the Lord, because you can look at the things in the past according to the scriptures, and you can look at the things in now according to the scriptures to show you that the words of the Lord are true and they real. Okay, and they are actionable. That means the Lord will do them. Okay. All right, so hope is the feeling of trust, a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. And that's where faith comes in, okay? Let me get this right quick. This is Hebrews 11. And 1. It says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. All right? You got to hope, which goes into having an expectation, okay? All right? Having that expectation, the feelings of expectation go into hope, okay? But here, for faith, it says faith is hoping for something you haven't seen. We haven't seen the Lord put the Israelites in a land yet. We've seen history where the Lord took us out of it, okay? And we've seen history where the Lord, when I say we haven't seen history, it hasn't happened in this time, okay? But we've seen history where the Lord has taken us out and through his mercy has put us back in there reading the scriptures and allow us to rebuild the temple, okay? All right? And this time, we're going to see it in this lifetime. Some brothers may pass on being martyrs for the Lord. Some brothers may be alive, still being witnesses for the Lord, okay? But we got to have that expectation. We got to have that faith. We got to have that hope, okay? Let me get that word expectation, or expect. All right, expect is regard something as likely to happen. All right, these scriptures will happen. You have to believe that, okay? All right. Let me go here, go back to this. It says this is it's 7 of them. Let me see. The sixth promise, it says, promise of Yahweh's presence, repeated throughout Israel's history. I will be your power, you will be my people. It says here, Yahweh dwelling among them, the tabernacle, the temple, all right? And then it gives a couple precepts, all right? And we're going to get one or two of them. This is Leviticus 26 and 12. This is Leviticus 26 and 3. It says, if ye walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and do them, then it goes into the promises of obedience. But verse 12 is the point. I don't want to keep this long. Verse 12 is the point, and it says, and I will walk among you and will be your power, and ye shall be my people. All right. If we do what the Lord says, he's going to be among us and be our people. Well, guess what? Since we haven't done what the Lord said in this time, all right, because we can't, it's not possible. One, we don't have the law, statutes, commandments within our inward parts. Two, we're not in a sovereign land. Three, this damn devil is ruling, okay? And then on top of that, we are not in the kingdom, okay? So we can't do the things that will cause us to be blessed, but with obedience by the Lord. But when we get in the kingdom, we will be able to. Okay. And let me get this. This is it's in Jeremiah. You can read it in Ezekiel. You can read it in Jeremiah. Either one. I think I'm gonna go to Jeremiah. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, because the promise above it. Okay. It says here the new covenant spiritual renewal promised to Israel for future restoration and transformation. Core promises a new heart, God's law written within them, forgiveness of sins, a restored relationship with Yahweh. All right, so if we were able to keep the obedience portions that the Lord had told us to do when we do the laws, all right, the Lord will be among us. So now he's not, because we wasn't able to keep the commandments. But when we get into the kingdom, okay, when we get into the kingdom, we'll be able to keep the commandments, all right, because this is also part of the Lord's promise. All right, Ezekiel or Jeremiah, whichever one you want to read, okay? This is Jeremiah 31 and 31. It says here, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith Yahweh. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahweh. I will put my laws in their inward parts and I will put my law in their inward parts and write in their hearts, and will be their power, and they shall be my people. All right. And it says here, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, for they all shall know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Yahweh, for I will forgive their iniquity and I will remember their sin no more. This is part of a promise that the Lord has said that he's going to keep for us, all right, that he's going to do for us. All right, so we have to believe these things, and these things that the Lord has said is part of what our faith is attached to, on top of the names of the Lord, okay? Because we believe that this will happen. We believe that this will happen so much to the point where we're going to have to end up being martyrs for the Lord, okay? All right, so for those that have gathered faith for a treasure, continue to believe in these words, man. Continue to have faith in these words, no matter what may happen or no matter what has happened, okay? All right, because at the end of the day, the Lord that made the heavens and the earth is in control, not no man. Okay, all right, but keep hoping on and believing in the promises of the Lord, because that's our treasure, man. The promises of the Lord. Like I had read earlier in Matthew, the 6th chapter, your treasures in heaven. Keep your eye on those things, okay? Where your treasure is, that's where your heart will also be. Well, our treasure is receiving the promises that the Lord gave unto us, okay? Lord, will you edify to the next time, Shalom.